instead of just focusing on the individual, what does it matter that we're a social species? So does it matter when there are other people around? Are you behaving and thinking differently because you're in a room filled with other people? Would it matter if there were only one of you here, or if there were 10 of you, or if there were thousands of you? Does the density of the room matter? And some of the answer for this comes from a strange domain. It comes from the domain of pool. So there are people who play pool and they vary greatly in terms of expertise. Some pool players are excellent, some are not quite as strong. And the question is, does it matter how strong you are as a pool player when you are being watched by an audience? And it turns out that one of the key factors here is how good you are at this task. So if you're a pool champion, you've won lots of trophies in the past, you will do better to compete in front of people, because what that does is it energizes you. Just as Usain Bolt wins the 100 meters in front of a crowd, he loves playing to the crowd. What the crowd does is, as they say, the crowd helps him liberate latent energy. Energy that's stored within himself is liberated by that sense of having the crowd there. There are a lot of demonstrations of this. If you're training for an athletic event, you will do much better to train in the presence of other competitors rather than just being alone in your own gym. Because having other people around increases your level of engagement and motivation. That's a great thing if you're good at what you're doing and what you're doing is a dominant action. It's not so good if what you're doing requires that you override your dominant tendencies, that you think more carefully, that you need to be very careful about what you're doing, because then the presence of other people just overwhelms you. Think of a student who's sitting and trying to solve a math puzzle, and the student has the teacher looking over his or her shoulder. That's a really bad thing. That doesn't help at all. It makes it harder to engage in this task that requires deep thinking. Now, I think that matters a lot for occasions when you're trying to sell new information or ideas to people, when you're trying to convey pieces of information, convince them of new ideas. If this is new and complicated, it's probably better that you don't have the added complication of other people around. Having people around increases the level of engagement, but it also makes it harder for us to think more deeply and clearly about whatever is being presented to us. So I think that's one important factor. When is it good to have a crowd around? When is it not so good? It depends on the task and the nature of the task.